sort of an idea. It's not really, it's kind of less than a big idea. It's a little idea. That's why it's called a hypothesis. It's less than a thesis. It's just a little idea here. And the null hypothesis, when we talk about H0, the null hypothesis, that's the hypothesis that it happened by chance. That the penicillin didn't do anything. There was no difference between penicillin and placebo in the world. In the real world, it's just all due to chance. So there's no effect of the treatment of the independent variable. There was no difference. The independent variable doesn't have any effect. And H1 is a rival hypothesis. This might be the hypothesis that the penicillin is beneficial. Penicillin is good. We could also have an H2 here, which is that it's harmful. Because that's always a possibility. The new drug might not work. Where did they get the idea to try penicillin? Fleming was growing some deadly bacteria. He was a British bacteriologist. He comes in late in the story. He's growing some deadly bacteria on a petri dish. I'll tell you about the petri dishes and everything later. It's attributed to Koch. Robert Koch, a German bacteriologist. But Fleming was growing some bacteria on his dish, and he came in one day and he looked at his deadly bacteria, and what happened? They all died. This had happened to people before. And he was about to throw it away and go, oh, expletive deleted. Throw it in the trash. I made a mistake again and let mold get in and kill my bacteria. This used to happen to people. Mold would get in there and kill your bacteria. While you were trying to grow some deadly bacteria, the mold would get in there and kill it. And so mold grew in there and killed his bacteria, and he's about to throw it away, and he said, wait a minute, the mold killed the bacteria. He looked at it under a microscope, and he saw the mold was producing little yellow drops. And since the mold was a kind of mold that grows on oranges, blue-green mold, called penicillium, he said, I'll call the little yellow drops of liquid penicillin. And he took a little drop of yellow liquid and he put it on bacteria in a petri dish. It killed them. And he showed pretty thoroughly, yep, this if you could grow enough mold, you could kill bacteria with it. But they also had the theory, maybe it'll kill people too. It's just a point. I mean, if you take cyanide, it'll kill bacteria, but it'll kill people too. Arsenic kills bacteria, but it kills people too. So one of the possibilities is that the penicillin is harmful. So we're going to calculate the probability of getting this, and if this probability is less than alpha, and alpha is called the type 1 error or the significance level, some small number like 1 in 1,000 or something like that, then we reject H0 in favor of an alternative hypothesis. And if you do the statistics on this, and if you take your stat course, they'll teach you how to do a chi-square test of significance. And this is very unlikely, given chance, that if you had a deck of cards and you randomly assign them to conditions, you'd get a difference this big. It's very unlikely to happen. Now, to give you the idea about cards, certain things are unlikely. How many of you play poker or know poker well enough to follow the story about poker? How many don't know anything about poker? Oh, geez, too many people. All right, well, there's 52 cards in the deck. They come in 4 suits. 2 of them are red and 2 of them are black. You got hearts and diamonds, those are the red suits. You got 13 of each type. They're labeled ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, then jack, queen, king. That's your 13. The ace is also known as a 1, but it's considered the highest ranking. And then they go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from the bottom on up. The deuce is the worst card, and the king is the best, except the ace is better. And in poker, you get 5 cards, although you get different ways of putting out the cards, but let's just make it simple. You get 5 cards, and if you have 2 of a kind That's a kind of a hand. That's not very good. The 3 of a kind is rarer to happen. That's more unlikely to happen. Getting 4 of a kind is a really good hand. Very rare. Getting 5 in a row is pretty good kind of hand. Getting 3 of one and 2 of another, that's called a full house. That's a pretty good hand. That's better than 3 of a kind. That beats that, but 4 of a kind beats a full house. And a straight flush, that's even more rare. That's where they're all the same suit and all in order, like 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so that's poker. Now you're playing poker with some people. The deal goes out. People are winning and losing. People have piles of money. The person over here deals. You look at your hand. You got a pretty good hand, 3 of a kind. So, got 3 jacks. You bet some money. The dealer bets some money. People bet money. Some people fall out. They fold. They throw their cards down. Pile of money builds up on the table. You stay in it even though you got those 3 of a kind. That's a pretty good hand, not a great hand, but you stay in the bidding. You show your 3 of a kind. The dealer shows 4 aces. Pretty rare hand. You could play poker all night and never see anybody get 4 aces. You may never get to see anybody a whole night of poker, see anybody get 4 of a kind. That's a very improbable thing to get 4 of a kind in a hand of poker. Without wild cards, I mean, if everything's wild, but that's another fact. We don't play with wild cards in here. Some people make the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 all wild. See? You're supposed to laugh at that, but you guys don't know poker. I'm just kidding when I said that. All right, so deal goes around the table again, goes back to that same dealer. Again, now you got a full house, 3 of a kind and 2 of a kind. That's a pretty good hand. You bid. You're putting your money in, the dealer's putting the money in. You know, a lot of money piled up on the table. You show your full house. Dealer shows 4 aces. 4 aces twice in a night, both by the dealer, by the same guy when he was dealing. Pretty unlikely, right? For that to happen. It's very rare for that to happen. Deal goes around. Now you get an unusual hand. 4 queens. The probability anybody's going to beat you if you have 4 queens is extremely small. Less than 1 in 1,000. It's a winning hand. You bet everything. Dealer bets a whole lot. Match. But a lot of people are betting this hand. They all seem to have good hands. Go around the table. 4 deuces. 4 jacks. You've got the 4 queens, but the dealer has 4 aces. Again, 3 times in a night. Now, do you think it was cheating? You start to think it's cheating. How many hands is it going to take before you say it's cheating? It doesn't happen. It could happen by chance, couldn't it? It could happen. But at some point, people start pulling out the knives and guns and going after the dealer, you know? I mean, he's stripped the cards, he's got a way of pulling out the aces, or he's got an extra. I mean, if somebody else had 2 aces and he's got the 4, then he really is in trouble, right? Because there's only 4 in the deck. See? So if there's 6 of them on the table, then we know something fishy has happened, right? But it could have happened by chance. You know, if you know quantum mechanics, all the numbers, you know, all the paint could have moved around. All right, forget that. At some point, you're going to reject the null hypothesis if the probability gets small enough. You reject the null hypothesis and you say, I reject the null hypothesis at the alpha level of significance. That's called the level of significance. So it's a probability level. It's a number like 1 in 1,000 or a small number. I reject that at the alpha level of significance in favor of the hypothesis, in this case, that the penicillin caused a decrease in the probability of death due to strep. And so we would conclude, reject H0 in favor of H1, which is that the penicillin reduced the probability of death from strep. That's an experiment. Experiment tests a causal hypothesis. Why not give everybody the penicillin? Well, now you would if you'd done the experiment. But if you hadn't done the experiment, how do you know what would have happened? Anybody got a cold in here? You got a cold? Anybody else? We do brownie defrangulation therapy. The brownie fringes are frangulated. Remember I told you about that? That's why she's sick. We're going to defrangulate the fringes. Feel better yet? It takes about a week. Keep attending. If you stop attending the class, you better keep attending. They'll think you died if you don't keep attending the class. So I'm going to show she's going to get better. You guys think if she does, will that show that the therapy did it?
No.
Try it. Next time you get a cold, try that. About a week later, you'll get better. What do we call that? It's called spontaneous remission. Most diseases, people tend to get better. And that's why you need a control group. The control group is telling you not everybody died. You need to know how many are going to die if they didn't get the treatment. So you can't just say, oh, well, 88% live who get the treatment. It could have been 90% live that don't get the treatment. If this had been 90, then penicillin would look bad. If this had been 100, all right? And that's how it comes out if you take people that don't have strep. People that get penicillin are worse off than people that don't get penicillin. Don't zip. We've got another whole topic to cover in the next 4 minutes. So be sure to keep your notes out or unzip, you know. Any questions about the experiment? This is the logic of an experiment. It tests a causal hypothesis. And a causal hypothesis is the hypothesis in this case that the penicillin caused a decrease in the death rate. Now here's how to do a survey. We're going to do a survey of the same question. We contact the hospitals and we tell them, for each patient that you had last year, did they get penicillin? Oh, the penicillin was here. Or no penicillin? And are they alive or are they dead this year? So we're doing a survey. We contact the hospital looks in their records, and they produce records of people that either got penicillin or didn't get penicillin and are now either alive or dead this year. And here's how it comes out. Is this the same? I chose the same number here. 80, just so it will look the same, but it's not the same, is it? Here, if you had penicillin, you're more likely to be dead, and if you had no penicillin, you're more likely to be alive. Is this surprising? This is called a correlation. And the correlation in this case is opposite what we just concluded about causation. We just decided penicillin reduces the probability of being dead due to strep throat. But this is a correlation. We don't have random assignment here, do we? Who is given penicillin in hospitals? Sick people. Who goes to hospitals? If you want to ask somebody, you know, did they go to the doctor last year or not, and are they alive this year or not? Guess who's more likely to be alive? People who are healthy, who didn't go to the doctor. Somebody who went to the doctor lots of times is the most likely to be dead. They were seen by a doctor 100 times last year. They're most likely to be dead than a person who didn't go to the doctor at all last year. They're healthy. So correlation and causation can be opposites. And they oftentimes are. So, who got the penicillin? The sick people. What happens in hospitals? Well, I told you last time, 100,000 die from nosocomial infections. They were healthy. They went in the hospital to get a hernia fixed or get their knee operated on. They got a sports injury, got an injured elbow playing tennis or something. Or like Kobe, injured their shoulder trying to dunk a basketball and having somebody else push on their arm at the same time. If you saw the video of it, it didn't look like a very impressive play. Didn't look like a play where people get injured typically, but just went up to dunk the basketball. The guy was trying to foul him, but hit his arm a little bit after the play, really. You go in to get a surgery on your shoulder, on your knee, you get your hernia worked on, and they give you an infection with methicillin-resistant staphylococcus. What do we know about this germ? It can kill you. What else do we know about it? You can't treat it with antibiotics very well. Penicillin doesn't work on it. Methicillin doesn't work against it. Only vancomycin is still a little bit effective against it. But you have to use such high doses that the vancomycin may give you kidney failure. So vancomycin is one of those antibiotics that's poisonous. So they have to treat people with vancomycin. So person that goes in the hospital who's sick gets a MRSA infection. What do? They give them penicillin. They die anyway. So getting penicillin is a predictor of death. You can use the fact that people are being given antibiotics to predict who's going to die. You can predict who's going to die. Does that mean getting penicillin is bad? No, it was a good idea, it just didn't work. All right, so we'll see you next time. Continue with this.